So I promised to show how to make one of those beads with the dichroic and the teardrop, which is really super simple, but maybe I get you some pointers. So the first thing is you need some dichroic, and I kind of like a fairly thin strip, and this dichroic is really hard to show up. So I haven't used this dichroic yet. It's kind of something weird. Anyway, so you want a quarter inch strip, otherwise the beads will get too wide. And here's a little leftover that I had from a set I made for myself. And so this has a pattern, and the cool thing, so whenever you use dichroic on a bead, I always pre-cut the dichroic, so I don't work from the full strip, because that gets really messy. Now you might ask, well, how do you know how long of a strip you need? And it's a little bit of a let's say hit and miss. So I have a little piece of, I can't show that because I had to move the camera. I have a little piece of tape on my table, and I marked the width of what works for me. So typically I can do well with 2 centimeters. And with this particular piece of dichroic, I don't know whether you see these little stripes here. So from this stripe, which is kind of in the middle or at the edge of the pattern, this is the pattern here. So these 2 lines happen to be just 2 centimeters apart. So I nip this, and I nip the other end, and then if I would make a lot of these, I would put this on the hot plate, because it saves you a little bit of time preheating this. So here's my 2 centimeter strip. So I am going to put this, no, my hot plate is cold. Put it on the hot plate anyway, so I know where it is. So I'm using, for this, I'm using 3/32 mandrel, because I kind of like a slightly bigger hole with this type of bead. You're more flexible of what you can string it on. You could string it on leather or silk cord or whatever. So 3/32, and then you need a base color for the dichroic. And let's look at this dichroic again. It has lots of orange and kind of a tea. It has some purple, and I really like purple. So when you take dichroic, I put it kind of, I hold it on top of my base color. And this is actually black here. See whether this is the purple. So you hold it on top of the color, and you can kind of see how the darker transparent enhances the dichroic. So that looks much better than, let's say, if you would put it on white. The white kind of washes it out. So if you have no particular color you like, you can just put it on black. So I turn my flame on. And one of the most important things here is that you make your base bead really, really thin. Because if you don't make it thin, if you have a lot of glass around, then you need more dichroic, and it doesn't look any better. You just waste more dichroic, and we know that this is relatively expensive material. So I just heat the very tip of my transparent purple or ink blue, or what it is, and so make a very thin round. How do you get your round thin? You just pull the glass down a little bit faster. So I'm almost pulling like a thick stringer off the mandrel. So wind this on, and I make it always a little bit narrower than the dichroic is wide, because another trick for getting this really, really thin is heating it. And I kind of didn't get a good job of distributing the glass even. So you want to heat it up, and in small steps marver it on a brass marver, and you get a really thin layer that way. So this thing is kind of going sideways, but I use it anyway. So this way you have a super thin, let's see, super thin layer. Then I use some tungsten tweezers, and all my tools are now hidden underneath my back. Tungsten tweezers. So I'm trying to make this, you know, easy for you to see without any distraction in the background, but it makes it hard for me. So I'm holding the dichroic kind of on the top, and you know, even if I have it preheated on the hot plate, I still kind of waft it through the flame. And then I heat one line on that bead that you made, see how it's glowing, and try to put the dichroic right in the middle. See here, I kind of got a little bit sideways, so you can still kind of move the dichroic at this point. You can either use the tip of the, tungsten tweezers, or you can use the magic wand. And then I give some heat to the bottom of the dichroic piece, and I'm pushing it down onto the bead. So, you know, a few steps of heating, and now the dichroic is kind of flush. And see, it's going sideways a little bit, so I give some heat and I straighten it out. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to heat this area here. So right above where the dichroic is attached to the bead. And so heat a little bit and push it over. Heat, push it over. And you will notice that in the bottom part of the flame, because this is in the flame too as you're doing this, it kind of balls up a little bit. You can see that it kind of rounds out. And we're going to take part of that later. Okay, so I go all the way around, and see, I even had a little bit too much glass there. I could have cut it less than 2 centimeters. That means I did a good job. So now pushing the end of the dichroic in that direction. So now in order to get the shape that I want, of course you could actually leave it like this. So give some heat to the dichroic and flatten this. So just by marvering, you make the dichroic spread out. And this is a fairly crappy bead, seriously, because if you hold it at yourself, you can see that it's not round at all. So you can play a little bit longer with that. You know, push the dichroic down, and then I always try to just roll it on the marble. So now again, here's a little bit more dichroic right there. So now I'm heating the left side, and I'm holding it upwards so the heat kind of just hits the edge of the dichroic. And if you heat it this way, the dichroic will fuse with your base bead. And you do the same on the other side. You can kind of see here how I have some of my purple base show up. So let's see whether I can fuse the right side. And if you make this and you see that your base shows up very often, then you just have to use less glass in that first step. So this is the basic round. And now I'm taking a clear rod, and this is, one second, I think I can get it a little bit closer here with my camera. So this is the double helix clear. I don't know which one of them, but it's so nice and clear. So keep your bead warm and try to locate, especially I did a good job here, try to locate where you have your seam, where the dichroic came together. Or you can take a side that is a little bit smaller. This side here is narrower than this side, so I'm trying to put it on the narrowest part. So I'm placing a small dot in the center of the bead. So place it, and then I'm pulling the glass away. And for making this teardrop, there is a variety of different methods to do that. So this is just what I do, which doesn't mean you have to do it the same way. So I have my little knob, and now I add more clear, and what I do is I add some clear to the top of that knot, and I hope I have enough molten clear left. I kind of wind it around the tip of that knot, and the purpose here is to keep a nice small footprint where that teardrop starts. And now I'm giving just heat on the teardrop. And you have to be careful when you do that, that you don't get it so hot that it flops over. So there's my teardrop, and if you wanted to make it longer, also point it at yourself, and you can see here that the teardrop is slanting to the left a little bit. So it's not just this position, but it's also the side position that you have to pay attention to. So now I'm just giving heat to the whole blob, and I need to tilt my bead so that that can even out. So I have it like this, and then I look at it from the side. Okay, now it's hanging nice, so I wait until that drop is cold. Oops, now it's wrong in this direction. So you balance this out a little bit just by heating the blob. And if you wanted to make your blob a little bit longer, you just add some more glass. So this is actually a really big blob, so add the glass. Don't forget to heat the dichroic bead. And now I'm holding it, as I'm melting it, I'm holding the teardrop upwards so that it can kind of ball up nicely. Does that make sense? And there you go. Now you make about 25 more of these, and you have a beautiful necklace or bracelet. How to make a teardrop of joy. It's not perfect, but you get the idea. Okay, thank you so much for looking, watching, coming, whatever you're doing here.